GovCast from South Florida. Welcome to Thursday, mid-month October. How's everybody doing? Good to see you. Special guest today, taking care of business. Hey, Stevie B left us. We got nothing. Vacation. We're again, vacation time all the time. Stevie B heading out all the time.
He earned it.
Did he?
I think so.
What would that make? How do you do that? How do you do that?
You work here for as long as he has.
And then you get what? You get to go wherever you want?
Whenever you want.
Woo! Dre, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Andrea. Good to see you today. It's almost the weekend, so super pumped.
Yes.
I leave tomorrow for Orlando.
What's that?
I leave for Orlando tomorrow.
What are you doing?
My sister's bridal shower.
Just be safe. Be safe. The world's not safe out there in the bridal shower gathering component of Florida. So be safe in Orlando. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We are so blessed today with special guest Ian Koniak from Salesforce. We'll bring him on in just a little bit. While he's here, if you have any questions, comments, please put them in the comments below, and we'll get to those during the show. So super excited about today. And Steven's away in North Carolina, so maybe he's still driving and remotely. So Steve, ping in so we know you're still alive. He's going out to what? Western Asheville. So
Asheville. I used to go to Asheville all the time in the summers with my family.
Billy Graham's out there, and I don't know if they have internet. So he's going to see the seasons. We have no seasons in Florida. Great. So before we get to Ian, we have had a long-running process of just going through some myths about selling to the government. So I think we're up to number 5. And so we're going to go through myth number 5 about selling to the government as we go through here the fourth quarter of the year. So Dre, I'm turning that over to you.
Yes. So myth number 5, it's hard to find or identify government sales opportunities.
Wow, you did good. See, last week I actually spoke over that little beacon.
Calm till it's all done.
The production team, they got high stuff that mutes. We got stuff. Yeah. So I think it depends, right? And here's the slide, right? So I think the main thing everyone always talks about is these bid notification systems, right? Hey, out there today, if you're unaware, if you're new to the government world, way back when, before the internet, the head of procurement had a lot of power. If they were going to buy something, they would literally make copies of stuff and send it to the companies they wanted to get proposals from. So the head of procurement in a city or a town or an agency, they were like big person on campus because they literally controlled who got it. And then obviously with the advent of internet, everything changed. And now the government agencies, for every procurement they do, they actually post it on their website. So as soon as they need something, they'll post it up on their website. And then what happens, all these bid notification companies, they actually screen scrape all the government websites. And so they aggregate all of the bids and RFPs that are out there, the major bids and RFPs. And then companies can actually buy access to these bid notification systems. And so that's the number one way folks traditionally hear about government business. They'll buy access to this bid notification system, aggregates all the bids and RFPs. And then that system will send them an email each night about things that company sells. So you would go in there and put your keywords in, right? Like if you sold office supplies, you'd put a desk and paper and pens and pencils. And so if a bid and RFP came out, for something you sold, you'd actually get an email that night. So every day, typically, if you have a good bid and RFP or bid notification system, your email will have anywhere from 2 to 10 different opportunities that were released yesterday from an agency, right? So is that what companies tell you, Dre, when they sign up for one of these services?
For the most part, right? So you're tracking these opportunities. You want to only focus, of course, on what's relevant, right? Like what you can actually respond to. What I would say, though, in terms of the myth, right? It says it's hard to find these new opportunities. I would say that is true if you don't have any kind of resources, right? Because if you have a company just starting today and like, I don't even know where I would start without any kind of system to help me.
Yep.
So I'd say bids are definitely a really good way to find new opportunities, but then also, which we can talk about at a later date, but being able to focus your efforts on who's been buying what you sell is actually super, super effective, because if you can already identify a prospect by seeing somebody who already buys or is familiar with the types of products or service that you provide, probably a lot easier to start winning these opportunities and working with them than just waiting for bids and RFPs. Yeah,
you know what's really interesting, and we'll talk to Ian in a second, like in the private industry world, it's really interesting. Sales folks are they're always hunting, trying to find the opportunity. Is the company interested in what I sell and blah, blah, blah. In the government world, like it's so great what you just said. They actually have all this information. There's all this information. They actually almost tell folks in advance what they need. And so it doesn't matter how they're going to buy it. Some are bids and RFPs, some are quotes, some are legacy, some are on GSA schedule. There's actually a ton of information. And you're right. It's really, if you're going to go sell to the government, it's really investing in one or two technologies.
Definitely.
And you have a really good handle on what an agency is going to buy. It's that part is so different from private industry, because private industry, again, you're always trying to honey, hey, does this company want to buy what I sell? Does this company want to buy what I sell? It's kind of this volume thing. And in the government world, it's really interesting. I've never even thought about that way. They actually will tell you in advance. They'll typically give you a lot of lead time. And it's just a matter of you being plugged into the right technology solution and find those opportunities, right? So it really is, that part is super different. I've never really looked at it that way. It's a great point.
Well, and I used to be in an outside sales role before this, selling software also, right, but to private companies, and it was very different, right? Like you would have X amount of leads, whatever, and you'd call them and be like, are you interested? Are you interested? What do you think? Like it wasn't as easy, right? You know, the government's going to need what you buy, and not every company or not every person is as fortunate to be selling something that the government has to buy, right? They buy literally everything.
Yeah, the government buys everything. And I'd say for our audience too, what's interesting, the government does a wide array of not only they buy everything, but the timing can be really different. A bid and RFP is typically going to lock you in for 3 to 9 months. It can be super painful and a lot of paperwork and what have you. But as we've talked about ad nauseum over the last several months, particularly during COVID, the government will also, we have this GovQuote platform where they'll put out a quote for a generic item and they'll buy it literally in a couple hours or a couple days. And it spans everything in between, from a couple hours to a couple days, all the way over to a couple months, or sometimes a couple of years, right? So some of the big stuff will take a long time. So, but there are short-term things. Like everyone thinks about the government being painful and long and blah, blah, blah. But, we've seen literally 100,000 plus deals being awarded in just a couple of days by the government. So it is out there. Folks, the bid and RFP thing is how folks always think about it. And you can find out about it, but that's just one way. There are a ton of ways, I guess, going back to the myth, there are a ton of ways to find out what the government's going to buy or what they need or what a particular agency needs without kind of all the pecking around that you typically have to do maybe in private industry sales, right? Is that fair to say?
For sure, yes.
Hopefully Stephen would concur with that. And if Stephen was here and if you join GovSales University, he'll actually walk you through all that, right? They'll walk you through, hey, what are the bids and RFPs? What does that really mean? How do you win them? Hey, what are the quotes? What does that really mean? And how do you win them? And what are some other ways, all the 10 ways the government buys outside of bid and RFPs? So just doing a little plug for GSU while Stephen's not here. So he would be, if he's listening, so make sure, Steve, I got your back. So
if you have a lot to say.
Yes, he'd be like, listen, get into GSU. We'll tell you all the ways the government buys. So great. So again, myth number 5, debunked. You want to play the thing again? You want to do the beaker blast one more time? Back to the stage.
You're like a little kid.
Oh my God. It's just so funny. You never know what's going to show up. So that would be myth number 5. You can definitely find out what the government's going to buy. Probably much easier than private industry than just trying to make it happen. Good?
Yes.
So no. Myth number 5, we're done. So I want to introduce Ian Koniak. He is from Salesforce.com. He's their strategic account director. I've known Ian for some time. Super blessed to have him on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us. Top man over at Salesforce, making big things happen on the enterprise side. And so we actually kind of pre-sold him a week ago, and then I got caught up going to see my grandchild new. And so Ian's actually a new father as well, right? A new addition to the family recently. Oh, look. There
I love it. You guys are stalking me, finding the good stuff.
That's what Stephen does. Stephen goes, look, Stephen is our stalker. He finds our guts.
Me.
Yeah.
Your new one, Luke, and then what about your other one?
Max,
Luke and Max. Cute.
4.5.
That's great. Congratulations.
Easy to say, right?
Amen. Congratulations. Welcome to the show. So, Ian, can you tell our audience a little bit about your background and where you are today? And really blessed. He is a superstar in the sales world. And so I'd love for you to humbly, I know you're more humble than the process, but I'd love to blow it up. Tell folks what you're doing. It's amazing.
Humble's hard for me. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Once I saw you're doing the show, I'm happy to repay it forward because I know we did an interview not so long ago, maybe a year ago, before all the craziness of COVID happened. But
crazy.
My background, I started in sales 18 years ago. So I started down the street selling copy machines for a company called Lanier. No one had heard of us. And I had to be successful when I started in sales. Before I got into sales, I was a teacher in South America. I ended up falling in love and I had zero money and she didn't have a visa. So I basically had to get a job where I can save enough money to bring this woman from Venezuela and support her on a student visa and pay for college at the right age. So sales was the only thing that I could go with, like no no advanced degree or anything like that.
That's a great story.
Yeah, that's how I got into it. And ever since, it's been kind of a rise. I was actually selling to the government quite often when I first started in sales. I sold to the city of Santa Monica, the Santa Monica Unified School District, and the community college. That's how I got my biggest sales, was selling to the government, ironically enough, maybe 15 years ago. And then I became a sales manager, then director of sales, where I led a team of about 80 sales reps and 10 sales managers at Ricoh. Then I decided I was playing the wrong sport altogether, and I needed software as a service. So I went to a small company called Salesforce, which is not so small anymore. When we started, we were less than 10,000 employees. That was eight years ago. And we've just blown up. We're over 50,000 employees now. And it was really, for me, it was kind of a step back in a way, because I was going from like leading a big team and leadership position to an individual contributor role. I originally did that just because I wanted to get into the industry, and I was really focused more on the company versus focused on the role itself. So I would take
Salesforce is good as it gets. It's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the major leagues of selling. And so I'm fortunate. I met someone who actually came from copiers and printers, and he took a chance on me. He knew the kind of pedigree that type of salesperson had, and he said, "I'll give you a shot." And the rest is history. I've been selling now for 8 years at Salesforce, and am targeting enterprise accounts. So I really only, at this point, only have 2 accounts, and they're Fortune 500 companies, very large, and my role is really to oversee the entire relationship with the account. So I have about 20 people on my team that support me. Wow. So we have sales reps from Tableau, from MuleSoft, from a lot of the companies we acquired. All that rolls up through me. So I'm getting credit for anything really that's sold into those accounts. So my job is really to quarterback and oversee the entire team at Salesforce to make sure we're aligned to support the company's, our customers' most strategic initiative, using the combination of all the different tools in our toolbox to help them solve their biggest problem. So it's a really fun role. It's challenging. You manage internal, you manage the customer, and I'm really selling to the C-suite. So I'm selling to senior executives, CIOs, CFOs, that type of role.
That's so great. I think there's a lot of synergies between what Ian's doing now when you start to sell to the government, especially when you get volume, because there normally is several folks involved, from writing the proposals to doing the lead gen to dealing with the agency. So most government sales teams are in that kind of 6 to 12 folks kind of team mentality going to attack a government agency. So there's a lot of synergies there. I also know Ian is a science, he is someone who studies the sales process and has some sales training and does a lot of things to help folks improve in sales. So I'd love you. Can you just share some of your perspective on selling in general, whether it's the government and or in private industry, some of your top, hey, here are things over your career you've learned that are like, hey, these 3 things are like the things that make or break folks, particularly as they're starting or as they begin the process. Like I know you have a ton of material out there related to that.
Yeah, I do. And to your point, for the past couple years, I've been on a mission to share everything that I've learned and really give back to the sales community. I started a small coaching business and do some training. It's something I do on a very limited basis because my efforts and my focus is on Salesforce right now. But it started a couple years ago where I was hanging off a roller coaster 180 feet upside down for 30 minutes. And I thought it was, no kidding. I have pictures and people were filming. It's on YouTube. It was super scary. I thought I was going to die. I'm like, I was at that moment. I'm like,
what year is this?
This is 2018 in December 28th, 2000. I'll never forget it.
What a music part, right? What a music part.
Six Flags Magic Mountain. The ride was called Tatsu. It's a flying coaster, so the track's actually above you. You're not sitting, but the track is above you, so you're hanging down like Superman.
Yeah.
It literally stopped at the peak right before the biggest drop, and we're hanging there for 30 minutes. And I was praying, I was meditating, I was like, literally, I'm like, I thought I was going to die. I thought about my family. I thought about my legacy. I'm like, I need to give back. I need to do something that's going to help the community. And that's what kind of started me on this journey of really sharing. I'm not some sales guru. I'm someone who's been doing in the field the job for a long time. I've been blessed to have a lot of success, and I was really keeping that all to myself. And sales to me, it's been an amazing industry in general. It's given me the opportunity to be a self-made multimillionaire. It's given me the opportunity to provide an amazing life for my family. My wife doesn't have to work. I'm so blessed by this. And I know I'm a pretty ordinary dude. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. And I shouldn't say that. I don't think I'm ordinary. I think I have some drive that you can't teach people. And that's the number one thing that you have to have in sales. People can say, I'm driven, I want this, but really when the rubber meets the road, how driven are you? What are you willing to do to get to where you want to go? And that is the number one thing, is drive, right? And drive means sacrifice, okay? A lot of people see what I'm doing now. They see, the end result, but they don't see the 18 years of grind and hustle and really the endless weekends. I used to go in the office every day. When I was in sales starting out, every weekend, I would be the only person coming in on a Saturday. Some people might say that's crazy, but the reality is I was the number one rep in that company for 3 years in a row, and I hit my quota 42 months in a row. So that's exactly what it took. It took being laser focused, and I had to pay for someone's college, support both of us. I was super young, and I was like, I don't have a choice, right? I have to do this. So I think like really having that inner drive, and it doesn't stop just because you hit your goal. You're always going to be driven. You always have to think about what is next. Why do you want this thing? What's really driving you forward? Because the minute you lose that drive and focus, I think the way you show up, your energy, your communication style, and your passion will go down the drain. So that's the number one thing I would say for anyone, is think about what you want, why you want it, find that inner hunger, find that drive. And then when you feel like not doing something, when you really feel like, man, this sucks, that's when you got to lean in and do it, right? Because success means doing what others are not willing to do. That's the difference between good and great, is those like little shitty things, those responding to RFPs that, oh man, I don't want to have to do this because a lot of paperwork or admin, it's outside the things I enjoy. Well, I got news for you. Most of what selling is outside of the things you enjoy. I'd be super grateful if I could be on conversations like this all day and be training and coaching. That's not the reality. A lot of it's just the grind. So number one is you got to find that inner drive. Number two, I would say, is, from a communication standpoint, a lot of people show up and throw up in sales, right? They're just focusing on themselves. They're focusing on, it took me a while to learn this, but the way you can really build connections with people is take an interest in them. If you can be interested and not interesting, you will very quickly connect with the people you're talking to. And that's contrary to what a lot of people think in sales is what makes, what makes people successful. They think knowing products or being, the guru of your industry, that's not it at all. Just take the time to get to know who you're talking to, what they care about, how they're measured, what are their most important drivers, right? If you can make someone successful, then the success will come back to you in spades. A mantra I live by is help others get what you want, and you will get help others get what they want, and you will get what you want. And that's been so true for me throughout my career, is just stop worrying about yourself, worry about other people, and then it will come back to you in spades. So that's the second thing, is actually be interested in the success of your clients or prospects. That's number two. And the third thing is really take the time as part of being interested to do deep discovery. Okay. And when I say discovery, I mean, if you can't solve a problem that you don't know about, then you're not going to get a sale. So it might be a little bit different with government because they are pretty public about what they want and how they want it, and it's very transparent. But in the private sector, where I'm selling to, we are paid to solve big problems, and the bigger the problem you can solve, the more money you get. And so if you think you can just, again, to show up and just know everything about them, it's arrogant, it's foolish, it's naive, right? You need to really understand exactly what the client that you're talking to, what challenges they have, why they have those challenges. Have they ever tried to solve those challenges in the past? If so, what has happened to them? What's their plan? How are they thinking about solving those challenges? What's the impact of the challenges? For every major challenge that they have, really go deep and understand, how they got there and what you can do to help them get there. So for me, my sales cycles are 6 to 9 months, and my discovery, sometimes I'll have 50 meetings with executives, with people under them, VPs, director level, and end users to really understand the lay of the land before I can go back. And then when I go back, it's really all I'm doing is replaying what they told me during discovery. And that's the beauty of the sale, is if you can, most of the sale is made the minute they open up their doors and let you into their world. And because in that point, they're asking for help. They're saying, hey, take a look at what we're doing and show us how you can help us, right? And so that's where I think a lot of people make a mistake, is they too quickly jump to the solution. They too quickly to say, I can solve this because I got a hammer and you're a nail, and I'm just going to pound it. And the reality is that with a company like Salesforce, we have over 50 products, right? We have integration products, we have analytics products, we have sales, service, marketing products. If I am just showing up and throwing up, all the information that we have, I am not going to sell anything. So it's all about, understanding their unique problem and then using our, basically our set of Legos to build them a Millennium Falcon that can solve and take them to another world, right? That's what like a Lego kit. So I think that third piece of like doing deep discovery before you pitch or before you propose anything is really important. And there's a lot more than that, but anyone can do that regardless of level of experience, those three things.
I think that is, I love that, because I think most folks, sales folks particularly, they're like, I know my widget, I know it really well. I'm going to tell you all about my widget, and can it solve all your life problems? And the ability to step back and ask a lot of questions and stay interested and then take your widget and put it into whatever they need is huge. I love that. Is such great feedback. It's so nuanced. We always talk about it's 20 little things that make somebody great, and that's one. Please don't miss that to our audience. It's like really getting to know your customer. So big.
So I've got one. So we typically learn in the hardest times that we have in life, right? So you go through an obstacle, and how you overcome that is typically what shapes you. So is there maybe one or two things that have happened in your life that you feel have been like aha moments, or that you've been super down and you've been able to come out of that?
Well, there's the sales moments I can talk about, and there's the life moments. There's two very different things, right?
Let's do at least one of each. Okay.
So sales moments, I go back to 2017 in January. I had literally just missed my quota, hitting my quota for the third year in a row. And a lot of people don't know this. They know me as having finished number one and backing that out and doing very successful in the recent years. But before I was successful, I actually had hit some really rough times at Salesforce. And the reason why is because I wasn't selling the way that I just described. I was basically at commission breath. I was all focused on my quota, my attainment, and clients could sense that. They can sense that I'm out to help myself versus out to help them. So that's a major shift that I made. But I didn't always sell that way, because when I was selling copiers, it wasn't that type of sale. It was more transactional versus strategic. And so I kind of had a lot of success in that world. I went to Salesforce. I had a very big first year in Salesforce, but I got lucky in some ways because I found a really big opportunity. I brought the right people in, I closed it. And then the 3 years after that, I missed my quota by a long shot for 2 years. And then I'm like, you know what? It's my manager. It's my territory. I was kind of pointing the finger at all these other things. And so I'm like, I'm going to leave Salesforce. And so I actually started interviewing with Microsoft. I got an offer for them. I was this close to leaving, but my SVP of sales, her name's Jen Legaly, amazing leader. And she actually said, you know what, maybe you need to go into a different division. And I approached her and talked to her. And I'm like, maybe I need more at-bats because I'm more of a transactional guy. So I moved from the enterprise to the commercial division, and I busted my ass that year. I worked so hard, and I was 96% of plan. And it was the very last day of the year. I was told that I had, I had a $200K deal. My quota was like 1.5. I was at like a 1.45. I was very close. I think it was 96%. And I was told I had a $200,000 deal that was coming in. It got approved from the board. The CFO approved it. The CEO approved it. Everyone approved it. So I'm like, they're like, just show up. You just got to meet with our president. And she has a few questions, and then we'll get the paperwork signed. So I'm like, yes, finally I can get over my plan. And this all paid off. Well, I get to the office, and she's like, everything looks good. I just got to call our parent company in China and verify a couple things. And you probably know where that, I just saw your face, Andrea. So you probably know where this story's headed, but not in a good place, right? So she calls the parent company, and they're owned by a company that I didn't know about that was like, they're completely a subsidiary, but their parent actually was doing a similar initiative. And they found this out from the CIO in China, is like, don't do anything with Salesforce. We're doing something similar. We need to analyze and see if there's synergies between the two things before you go and make this move. Maybe you can use what we're doing, and we just need to explore this a little further. So she's like, I can't sign. And I'm like, what do you mean? Everyone's approved it. You're your own company. And I was devastated. And she's like, look, if you can sell the CIO in China and convince him, I'll sign it right now. But if you can't, then I won't. And so I managed to track down the CIO's cell phone, got the guy on the phone in China. By this time it was like 10 or 11 p.m. It was late. She had the DocuSign.
Learn to speak Mandarin all in 8 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, the guy it turns out he's on vacation with his family. He hangs up on me. He's like, why do I need to buy right now? This isn't how I work. I'm like, it's the last day of our year. We have to do this. You won't get this deal again. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't work this way. Click. And in that moment, I had the most pulsing migraine I've ever felt. I mean, it was like, just like this crazy ringing in my head. And I remember I was up in my bedroom. I sat in my room, and I put my head down, and I felt like a failure. And I felt like such an unworthy person. And I was like, it was the most miserable feeling I've ever had because I had missed 3 years in a row. And I thought finally, after all that hard work, that, I was going to overachieve. And at that moment, I said, never again. I said, I don't care what it takes. I will do whatever it takes to basically be successful because I cannot have this feeling again. It was horrible. And so that was my kind of low point in sales. And the year after that, I ended up joining a sales mastermind. I invested, $25,000 in my own personal development, my own personal training. I got a coach. I completely rewired how I sell and thought about things very differently. And I ended up finishing number one in the company. I made over $1 million that year. I sold almost $6 million myself. And it was just insane. And so that was really, from a sales perspective, what it taught me in that moment is a couple things. Number one is you have to take a beginner's mind at all times. If you think drawing upon what you previously knew will make you successful in the new world, it doesn't. You always have to be constantly learning and growing and evolving how you sell. And I was just stuck doing the old way of selling, and I just hadn't evolved at that point. So that was how I bounced back, is I literally let go of my sales ego. And I said, I don't know anything. If I did, I wouldn't have missed my quota 3 years in a row. I will learn. I will do whatever you tell me. And I'm basically taking a beginner's mind. So in the business world, I think that was my bounce back factor. And it really was kind of the second lesson, which it's taken me longer to learn, but I think this is a more important lesson than anything else I can share with you guys. And that is, you are not your number. At that point in life, right? My entire feeling of self-worth, my entire feeling of pride, all I was basically my number. So if I was selling, I felt great about myself. I was confident. I was happy. If I wasn't, I felt like a failure. Well, that is not a recipe for success in life. And Jack, you and I talked about this a lot when we were up in Nashville. And my entire identity was grounded in my performance. And what I've learned now, fast forward more, 3 years from that point, more than 3 years, is that your success in your career, and specifically your sales numbers, is only one part of your success in life. How we define success in society is very much geared towards your financial earning statement, your bank account, your title, right? But the reality is, as a husband, as a father, as a mentor, as a friend, there are so many things that are, I think, as a man of faith, right? There are different things that define you. And if you're putting all your eggs in one basket of who you are, then what happens if that basket spills over? What happens if those eggs crack, right? You're left with nothing. And that's kind of how I was living before. And that's all I felt like I had. But now I'm, coaching, I'm mentoring people, I'm giving back. I just took 12 weeks. No one in sales does that. They don't take 12 weeks to go on paternity leave. I did, because I want to be there for my family. My son's on the autism spectrum. That's been an exercise in patience and learning. So I think for now, whether I sold zero or whether I'm 500% a plan, I'm proud of the man I am, regardless of my sales results. And that's taken me a while to kind of get to this point. And that's really because of the second lesson in that personal. So that's the sales story of falling on hard times. Now I can get to the personal story, unless you have questions about that.
Oh, do it. Yeah, keep going. Do your thing.
Okay, so the personal story is really, so I had all this success in sales. I finished number one, then I backed it up, by being in the top 5 of Salesforce. And during this time, my ego got super inflated, right? So I'm like, man, I'm the man, I'm amazing. And I actually started working more than ever. I started a small business, a coaching business. I was crushing it at Salesforce. And I actually was neglecting my family in a way that was really I almost lost my wife in my marriage. And I also, from that point, it was like I just wasn't present. That's the only way I can explain it. It's like I was always thinking about his work. I was always working. Meanwhile, I have this amazing wife and kids, and it was like I completely was so caught up in my own goals and my own head and my own ego that I was neglecting what was right in front of me, in front of my own eyes. And so that was kind of that humble lesson is with my wife, I ran into some big challenges in my relationship because I was so self-centered and self-focused that I wasn't giving my family the attention that is desired. And I just wasn't really being the husband that she signed up for, 7 years ago. And so that took me kind of having to take a step back and say, you know what, my marriage is most important. I got into marriage counseling. I actually got into addiction recovery. I joined a 12-step program. Because I had a lot of success, I also was like a work hard, play hard kind of guy. And that was always how I was wired. And I struggled with everything you can think of, right? And it wasn't something that people would know about. It's not something you would see me and say, oh, that guy's an addict. But I was like what you call like a weekend addict. I would binge drink on the weekends. I would smoke pot. I would do anything just to escape because I was so like working so hard. I needed an outlet. And I didn't have healthy outlets. I would go on these big Vegas trips and gamble a bunch. I did a lot of things, again, that I'm not proud of. I don't need to get into details. But for me, what I was doing was basically escaping, the person, who I wasn't proud of inside, right? And so when I stopped doing these things, I've been sober now for 8 months.
Amen.
And I've been doing 12-step programs, and I've been really just living a different lifestyle and a healthier lifestyle. I've replaced a lot of these unhealthy ways to escape with very positive ways to escape. So before I even got on this podcast, I did a gratitude journal of 3 things I'm grateful for. I did a morning prayer. I went on the Peloton bike. I took a cold shower, right? That's pretty typical for my morning. So by the time I'm with you, I'm so fired up. I'm so, feeling good. It's like, I can't have a bad day, and people see that energy and it translates, but that's not the way it used to be. I was running ragged. I was always stressed and uptight. And now it's just like, I'm living a very healthy lifestyle. I'm spending a lot of time with my family. I'm taking care of my health. I'm giving back so much. I have people I sponsor in the addiction community. There's just a lot that I'm doing that makes me more well-rounded. My marriage has never been better. And so I think like taking the time to actually take a step back and face your shadows is something that I never did until really this year and when I got sober. So that's something that I talk about a little bit, but I think it makes me, again, I'm proud of who I am and the stuff I'm doing. And it's not all about just hitting the number. I know I can hit the number and turn it on and just go laser focused there. I've done that, been there, done that, but I never have been the role model or the person that inspires others to make changes in their lives that really can make a big impact and inspire other people. So that's where I'm at right now is on a journey. So, yeah.
Wow. We could easily transition to another question, but I just want to thank you for sharing. I think a lot of people don't share their life story like that. And I just want to take a second and just say thanks. Because I think, in our society, you mentioned it, folks, we see the thing that's on the news. We see the thing that's on social media, and it's not real. Right. And very few people go on social media, hey, I'm really struggling today. My life sucks or blah, blah, blah. And I can't thank you enough for sharing. And for our audience, I don't know if you saw it in his story, but the top of the top, it doesn't get any higher in the sales world than what he's doing and the success he's had. And it's amazing. And so appreciate you sharing those things, because I think most people go through that. We're all human. And I'll just say how important the people and what we do is so much important. When I went to grad school and I got the job I wanted. I came out of grad school and I went to a top 10 school and I had this job. It was paid me a ton of money. I'll never forget. I got the offer and I literally was getting on a plane to fly back to California. And Ian's, by the way, thank you for getting up because he's in California. And so thank you for getting up early in your thing. But I literally had this offer and I was so excited and I had no one to share it with. I wasn't dating anybody at the time. I was single. I couldn't get on my family. And I was on a 5-hour plane ride back to California. And it was the weirdest thing. I really pursued this job for a long period of time, a consultant, blah, blah, blah. And that's when it struck me. I'm like, none of this really matters. Like you really want to share your life with somebody. You want to share the process. And that was like, I had nowhere to go. I was on a plane, 5 hours by myself. I'd achieved the goal that I worked 30 years to get, and it meant nothing. And so I think it's so important. I think your sharing is amazing. Family and doing it, that work hard, play hard thing it's totally empty at the end of the day.
It's really something I'm passionate about personally, because I see it a lot in sales. I see people who all they think, 2 things, right? They think I'm only as good as my number, and they feel shitty if they're not selling. And that's just sad, right? Because there's more to life. And I see addiction. I see extremely in the sales culture and the bro culture, there's just this like, and just people getting hammered and just like not everything that I struggle with. I've seen so many more people struggle with than is public. So if I'm not sharing it, that means, who do they have that they can look up to or realize, you know what, this person's been there, and if they can get through it, I know I can get through it. And I probably received no less than 100 messages as I've shared my story from people who said, you know what, I'm struggling with the same thing, or I overcame the same thing, and I'm so happy for you. And it's just very common, because sales is a high stress business, the high stress career. You have a roller coaster, and it's very easy to want to medicate, right? In any way. And we have our healthy medications, but believe me, sitting on social media for 2 hours or watching Netflix for 4 hours is just as bad and just as medicating as going out and smoking a bowl and, or getting medicate in different ways. But it's really about thinking about the type of person you want to be, and then comparing it to who you are today, and figuring out what changes you need to make in your life, what positive changes, and what you need to drop, what you need to get rid of that no longer serves you. And that's an exercise that I promise anyone who does that, anybody who does that exercise will improve their sales, because you're going to have more time, you're going to have better clarity, you're going to have better focus, you're going to have a greater vision, and you're going to be able to connect better with people. So it's something that does make you sell more when you handle the personal stuff in your life. It's amazing what the impact is it has on your business. So
amen. Yes. And as Ian knows, and my team knows, I also went through the recovery world, and it is, I would just say to our audience, everybody struggles with something. That's just the reality of it. And we don't like to talk about it, but every person struggles with something. And so, being able to put that on the table and deal with it and get to a better place is amazing. So appreciate you sharing. That's super open, and cannot thank you enough. I know you're also, in your answer, you talked about, hey, you invested in yourself. And again, I think it's this is one of the things I think people don't do. I think we go through college, and we pay for college, and then we get out in the real world, and we're like, my company didn't pay for my computer, my company didn't pay for this, I can't do it. And for the people that are the elite, where Ian is, they really spend a lot of time and money investing in themselves, and investing big time. And I don't know if you caught the number that they've been in that 1 year, and Ian and I are in a couple groups together trying to work on ourselves and get better. That's how we met. And so can you share with our audience some of the things you found to be really beneficial, and how you invested in yourself, and what that really looks like? Because I think most people just feel like, my company's not paying for it, I'm not doing it. And, that's not where the big hitters are running, right? So
I think number one, you have to be in that mindset where you want to make a change, and you realize you can't do it on your own, right? We say that in the recovery community. It takes, if you try to do it on your own, you're not going to be successful. So you have to be able to find like-minded people that really have a mutual interest in basically a rising tide lifts all ships, I think is what it's called. So for me, it's a mastermind, right? So it was a group of top performers that wanted to really elevate their game and untap their full potential, right? So being part of some type of group of like-minded people that you can network from, that you can learn from, that you can hold each other accountable, I think is really important. That's the first ingredient. And Jack and I are part of a group, right now that is about building your personal brand. And there's so many, great connections and amazing people in that group that I'm seeing really elevate their game in the social world and reach more people. And it's inspiring to me, and it keeps me, focused on my business and my personal brand, just to have that kind of community. That's the first element, is like find some like-minded people, get in a group with them. There's a million mastermind programs. I certainly can drop the one I used to be part of for the sales group. And, there's ones in the brand builders group for people that have their own business or want to build up.
Yeah, we'll share that for the group, for the audience. We'll put it in the comments. We'll get it for you, and we'll share it.
Yeah. And then the second thing is, you've got to have some type of mentor or coach, right, that has been there before. So I did a few things during that year that I finished number one. First thing I did is I found the number one guy in Salesforce in the division I was at, and I said, hey, I want to learn from you. I really love it. It's amazing. You would think this person wouldn't want to take you on, but if you ask humbly and you tell them how much you appreciate them, you do a little research, it's amazing how people will be lend a helping hand, especially people that are at the top level. They want to give back. And that's what I did. So I found the top guy at Salesforce, and I also had a coach that was helping me. I had a meeting every other week with the coach, and I set goals. I had targets that we hit. We mapped out our plan together. I had that accountability with the coach. The coach was actually CEO of the mastermind that I had joined. And so it was really about every single week. I mean, there's so much I can list because I live this world right now, and I still do. but it was a biweekly one-on-one coaching. It was a group coaching every week. So every week I was getting new content to absorb and to practice. And I was part of this, again, mastermind. I did a few immersions with them. I did a few trips with them where we were all together learning content over the weekend. I did this 2 years in a row. We had 8 trips together with the group. And again, it's just more it's more about the community and learning from people and getting inspiration from people that are not afraid, right? Because if you're just in your team, that's just maybe a few people on your team. You don't see anything out. But once you open up your mind and you see people, outside of your business or your industry, or even people that might not even be salespeople, that might be owners of businesses, it's amazing how you can be inspired to think bigger and to to really dream bigger, right? And that's what got me to promote, and to start my own personal business. As I saw people that were doing this, and I'm like, I can train, I can teach. The training out there right now, it's crap, right? And people need coaching. And so I started a sales coaching business. I have a wait list of 30 people to get trained, and I only take 5 per week. I do 1 hour per day, and it's so I can be at Salesforce and be successful. And it's amazing how people said, I've never had this before. My sales manager doesn't coach me. I don't have people that I can be held accountable to. And so it's just really cool to be able to, give back what I received from that program to other people. And then I think the third element of what that looks like, investing in yourself, is actually like really committing to a growth mindset. So committing to constantly learning and growing. So, I was never one to read a lot of books. I was never one to really, spend time like trying to get better. And that's what shifted. Now it's like I read a book every single month. I'm also listening to podcasts when I'm running. I'm also exercising probably 4 days a week. And when I'm exercising, I'm listening to the audibles. And so you can multitask. You can do this as part of your everyday. But a lot of people are just, maybe they're reading fiction. Maybe they're watching their favorite shows on Netflix, but these aren't necessarily some things that are going to make them better. So when I'm consuming content, I'm consuming really positive content. I'm consuming educational content. Don't get me wrong. I still love to just veg out once in a while, watch a movie and relax, but that's probably 1 in 7 times that I'm consuming content. It's something for pure entertainment. And it's because I enjoy it now. I've fallen in love with learning and growth. And that I think,
awesome.
Yeah, that's what I think is what a growth mindset or what investing in yourself really means, is like actually absorbing it and then putting it into practice, not just absorbing, doing nothing with it, but actually applying what you learn. People pay for application, right? They don't pay for information. Information you can get anywhere, but people will pay for application. They want to learn how to apply and organize what information there is out there into their own. And that's why, again, the coaching business has been really cool for me, because I can show people how to apply the stuff that I'm teaching and sharing.
Yeah, I think for everybody, just to connect some dots, like for everybody, wherever you are, what organization, typically there's a person somewhere around you that's already achieved success you want, right? Finding them within your organization, there's that top 20%. We talked about it actually last show. Within your organization, there's somebody that's already done what you want to do. Go find that person, have coffee, set up a relationship. The mentor part of it, it's already been done. You don't have to reinvent the wheel in many, many cases, right? It's already out there. So important.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the key, right? It's like find the top person. If they say no or don't respond, ask again, and then ask again, and then ask again, right? Treat it as a sale, right? You're not going to stop one time with your clients. So that there's an internal sale of getting a mentor, right? So I have mentors, I have coaches. I still have a coach that I work with, and it's just like, you don't know what you don't know. So going to people that have been there, done that, and continue to perform is really, I'd say, the most important thing of that growth mindset, is just having some type of good mentor that you can learn from and that holds you accountable.
I have a question. Well, I've got a couple for you, but what would you say are a couple of your favorite books or podcasts? Because I am not a huge reader. I've started to try to enjoy it more during COVID, just being really honest. And so, but I'm always interested in learning like which are like your favorite books or the top books that people should read.
Yeah. So what I'm reading now, gosh, I have like 12-month queue of books that I want to read. A few of my favorites, I would say. The one I'm reading now is really good. I'm loving it so far. It's called The Happiness Advantage. And The Happiness Advantage is basically, it's written by, I'm just getting the name of the author, Sean Anker. or Sean Achor, Achor. Happiness Advantage is basically, it's written by a Harvard professor, and he's been studying performance in the workplace and the correlation between happiness in the workplace. And as you can see by my last story, that for me is very important because I had put all my eggs. And the theory is this: people delay happiness. They think I will be happy when I perform, when I hit this goal. And his whole book is saying it's actually the opposite. It's in order to perform, you need to be happy first. And people that are the happiest are the ones that perform at the highest level. And so that's the book that I'm reading right now, called The Happiness Advantage. And it's been, a really eye-opening, inspiring book because it really talks about how salespeople in particular actually sell 56% more, the ones that are optimists and positive, than the ones that aren't, that have a doom or gloom outlook in life. And so that's been a great book that I would recommend to everyone. Sean Achor also has a TED Talk, which has millions of views on the Happiness Advantage and what it does in business and in life. And then he goes and breaks down how you can be happy as a person. What are the daily habits? What are the routines? A big one is gratitude. A big one is appreciation for what you have. What I believe brings happiness is focusing on what you have rather than what you're lacking. It's very easy to think about all the things you don't have, but the reality is we're all blessed. Even be sitting here in front of computers talking to each other is a blessing. And so that's something that, again, I personally struggled with for a while. I was always delaying my happiness until I thought I'd be number one, until I thought I'd get the house, until I thought I'd have the dream family. Reality is that you can choose happiness at any time based on, how you show up, what you do, and the habits. So that's something that, again, that book I love. I think The Power of Habit is a really good book as well. That's on how to change your habits and actually, because habits are deeply ingrained, right? Habits are super ingrained. And so a lot of the stuff is actually about outlook and mindset. Those are the types of books that I listen to. As far as sales books, I'm going to give a plug to Keenan, who wrote a book called Gap Selling, which I love. Keenan's book, Gap Selling, is like almost entirely on how to do really, really good discovery to understand where your client is today, where they want to go, and that's called the gap, and how to help them get there. So once you know what the gap is and what the cost of the gap is and what the implications of the gap is, then you could begin to sell. So his book is very similar to the philosophy that I've been selling with at a high level, which is like, don't go pitch and prescribe anything until you really understand where it is that they want to go and why they're stuck today, and then make sure you tailor your solution to solve their specific problems. And there's a lot of really good book selling books that are like that. But that's one of my favorites. Spin Selling is another one by Neil Rackham. Those are a couple sales books that I've read. And then there's kind of those personal development books that, there's so many of them, but there's the Awaken the Giant Within from Tony Robbins is a classic one, right? It's about thinking bigger. And, you might think that society tells us, what we can be, or our parents tell us what we can be, or people around us, our environment. The reality is that you can be anything you want to be, right? You're a co-founder of a company. That, right? I always thought of myself as like, I'm just a sales rep, but the reality is now I'm a business owner. I'm, a husband, a father. I'm a director. And so it's like, you have to think bigger, right? You have to think bigger than what you're stuck in. And Awaken the Giant Within is focused on just that. I actually met my wife at a Tony Robbins seminar. She was my firewalking partner.
Oh,
Tony Robbins is a very special place in my heart for anything that he puts out. And so there we go.
What about podcasts? What about podcast, Ian? Any particular podcast?
There's so many, but I just went on one that I really thought was so John Barros, the Make It Happen Mondays is a really good sales podcast. I like John. I like what he's putting out. Another guy who I went on his podcast a few weeks ago, his name is Scott Ingram, and his podcast is the top 1%. And he will interview the top 1% of sales reps from all different industries and get them on the show. And it's sales reps like me speaking about what makes them very successful. So Scott Ingram, INGRAM, he's fantastic. So those two podcasts are good for sales. And then there's the personal development podcasts that are really about, again, mindset and thinking bigger. The two that I listen to in that realm, and it's been a little while, but one guy is Ed Milet. Ed Milet, his podcast is Max Out. The guy's a badass. crushed it in business and life. He's very inspiring, and he has really, really top level people on his podcast. He has, the top CEOs on. He has the top athletes, and just really cool, energetic dude to listen to, get you fired up in terms of thinking bigger. And the other guy I listen to is Lewis Howes' School of Greatness. And again,
Lewis, great.
He's picking the top brains and learning from them. And so those are like, again, outside the sales arena. But when you think bigger than just sales in your own microcosm, it's amazing how you can show up bigger, right? Because you're not just thinking about your product and your company. You're thinking about like your goals and where you want to go, and that can drive your performance and your overall energy with clients. So I'm kind of half personal development, half sales. And then I do addiction work too, which is a whole set of work in itself, 12-step recovery, mentorship, meetings for that too, which I won't get into, but that's also very helpful for me personally.
So in the first conversation, you were talking about what you did before the call, right? So you said you wrote down 3 things you're grateful for. You mentioned being on the Peloton. So I know especially younger folks who maybe are right out of school, just getting into selling, like being transitioned from working in the office to working from home has been like night and day. And I know you said you've been working remote for a while. So is that what you mentioned earlier? Like, is that what your normal morning routine looks like, or what does that typically look like from a day to day?
Yeah, I mean, my morning routine is a little bit, I would say a little bit inconsistent. It's not like I'm rigid. I have to do this at this time and wake up at this time, especially I've been on paternity leave for 12 weeks. So if the baby's not sleeping, then I'm not up at 2:30 a.m. But it's basically, there's a great book called The Miracle Morning by a guy named Hal Elrod, and it breaks down to like how to define your own morning routine. But for me, there's a few components to it, right? Number one is prayer. Every day I pray for what I'm grateful for. I pray for strength in the areas that I struggle with. And that's just something I do every day for a couple minutes, and it helps me stay grounded. Number two is exercise, right? Getting moving for 20 minutes or so on the Peloton, or I go for a run. I was just on vacation in Lake Arrowhead with my family, and both mornings I was up. It's like, what do you do when you pop up at 6:30 in the morning? Do you get on your phone? Do you sit and read social media or read the news? Or do you just think and like get in your head and not do anything? Or do you get moving, right? So a lot of times, like, my routine is popping up. I'm thinking for a few minutes. I'm like, no, what am I doing? And I literally say, I got to work out. So usually the first thing I do is I'll go for a run or go on the Peloton bike. Those are the two things for 20 minutes, 4 days a week, 5 days. On the weekends, it's a little different, but that's typically what I do. The weekdays, I say my prayer, and then I'll list out 3 things that I'm grateful for. And you can look up on Amazon gratitude journals. It's real simple, right? It's 3 things you're grateful for, and then what would make a great day, and what's your daily affirmation? Like, what's going to make today great, and then what's my daily affirmation, right? So something you say to yourself to remind yourself of who you are. So they have these journals that are helpful in assisting with it, but practicing gratitude, exercising faith, getting moving, and then last thing is just a cold shower, right? When I take a cold
shower, I forgot.
Tony Robbins said he has a cold plunge in all of his houses. It's actually like a cold plunge, 57 degrees. Mine's not 57 degrees. I can hop in the cold shower, but the idea is to shock your system, right? You're sweating, you're hot. If you ever go to a sauna or any kind of spa, they always have the hot pools and the cold pools. And there's a reason, because it opens up your pores, it shocks your system. And so by me going from exercising and sweating to a cold shower, it's like I'm jolted awake, and it feels just great. So physically, I'm energized. And then the last thing is just what I'm actually eating in the morning. So I don't have breakfast. What I do is I have an energy shake in the morning. So it's a multivitamin shake that I mix with green supplement. There's a main protein shake, and then it's called vitamin or green, and it's a green veggies, and I mix it with some coconut water, shake it up, and drink it. So by the time I'm working, right, again, I'm physical, I'm awake, my energy's good, I'm not weighed down by like a heavy breakfast. It's like, you can't go wrong. You're basically priming yourself for success. And then the last thing I do, I forgot, is I write out my goals for the day. So I take, here are the top 3 things that I want to accomplish today, and then I fill those things in my calendar. Okay, so I don't have a bunch of white space in my calendar that's basically taking up, because that's what kills you, is the white space. The times that you basically don't have anything on the calendar. It's easy if we have a meeting that we're planning to, an RFP that's due. It's easy to just like get it done. But what about the days where we have 4-hour window? That's when we go online. That's when we, mess around. So if you know in the beginning of the day you want to get done and you fill in all that white space and you stick to that, you can be very efficient. You can be very productive. So that's kind of the typical morning, and it usually takes an hour, maybe an hour and a half to get all that done. So I'm up at 6:30. I'm working by 8 o'clock. So it's not like I need a 4-hour routine starting at 5 a.m. It doesn't. It's easy to like convince yourself that a morning routine is really hard, but the reality is you got to start somewhere. So start with one, and add another one, then add another one. And all of a sudden, now it's kind of wired into your brain.
Bro, this I can't thank you enough for your time. Again, for our audience. What's that?
You had another hour to this?
Yeah, I was gonna say if we could extend the time. Like again, Ian, the top of the world where he is in the sales process. So again, for our audience, and appreciate you sharing. Listen, you sharing some things about your life and the addiction and praying. And we have a lot of guests, and those are topics that are so important that folks gloss over, and everyone talks about the same kind of outward BS that doesn't really foundationally make them strong. So cannot thank you enough. How do folks reach you? What are ways they can reach out, ping you, things you got going on?
If you, if you want to help advance the cause, which is me sharing more content, continuing, couple things you can do. Number one is just connect with me on LinkedIn. Go to my profile, Ian Koniak, and shoot me an IM. Say, hey, it was good stuff, and I'll get you the links for my newsletter. That's the first thing I do, a new video, a sales training video every week. If you want to get on my newsletter and watch it, just sign up. I'll send you the link, and then you'll get my content every week and get some inspiration to start off the week. Usually I send it out Monday or Tuesdays at 8 a.m. And then the next thing is my YouTube channel. So I've been doing these videos now for almost a year, and I have sections on mindset and habits of champions. I have sales training videos that I do. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Ian Koniak. And then the last thing is if you want one-on-one coaching, mentorship, I have a wait list. It's about 6 to 9 months to get before I have availability typically. But sign up now so you can get in the queue. It's iankoniak.com/contact, and there's a training wait list to get on for one-on-one training or group training. Again, it's something that I can only take very limited people because my focus is on Salesforce. But if you get in the queue there, if you're interested in kind of one-on-one, sign up there and you can get trained from me when the spot opens up.
Awesome. Bro, thank you so much for your time. It was amazing. Thank you so much. It was great. Thank you so much. Appreciate your honesty. Appreciate you sharing. God bless. Stay safe. We'll talk soon. All right.
Thank you, brother. Great to see you.
God bless. God bless. That was amazing, right? There's you never know. We start and literally almost got teared up in the middle of that one.
I was going to say, I don't know if I could see tears or not. I wanted to zoom in, but I don't know how to do it there.
It's a lot. Listen, that is a lot of real world stuff going on right there. And so appreciate Ian being super honest. Again, he has had so much success in his career, the best of the best. So encourage you to reach out to him, follow his stuff. He's got a lot going on, and just appreciate him sharing and being super honest. And it takes a lot, right? We one of my little things, and Andrea knows, we constantly in the world are inundated with what the world says is the right things. And the reality is most of those are empty. And just when you get your life foundationally strong, all the other success comes. And so you build it on a weak foundation, it doesn't end well. So, Andrea, anything else you want to add to today's show? That was great. I wish we had more time. I would have extended that one. So.
No, I mean, I think that was awesome. And there's a bunch of questions I still had filtering in my head. I was trying to prioritize, like, which ones are the best ones, Well,
we're going to suck him back in. We have to suck him back in soon. So.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. I think that was a great wrap up to the week.
Hey, we're actually, one last thing before we go. We're actually having a webinar on October 28th. So October 28th at noon, we're actually going to help as you think about selling to the government. We're actually going to provide this webinar. We're going to give you 6 resources, top resources, how you can develop your government sales plan. We're going to tell you about the trade shows. Dre mentioned when we start this GovCast, the technologies you need, what are some of the service providers are out there. We're going to give you these 6 resources. So it's going to be a pretty short webinar. We're going to give you a bunch of resources to help you start selling to the government. What are the things you need? Who are the players out there? How can we quick start you into the process? So that's going to be October 28th at noon. The link is below. You can go register. For just registering, listen, even if you don't show up for the webinar, we're actually going to give you all of the government trade shows. So you'll get the trade show list just for registering. So it's literally hundreds of trade shows on there. They'll teach you which ones for your industry. And so I encourage you to do that. Amen. So again, October 28th, go register for the webinar. It will be great. Thank you, Ian, for your time and energy. We will see you Tuesday at noon next week. Have a great weekend, Trey. Be safe in Orlando. Stevie B, enjoy North Carolina. See you next week. God bless.